Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tales from the Backlog, a gaming deep dive podcast. I'm your host, as always, Dave Jackson, he, him.
And I'm Josh Galecki, he, him.
And today we'll be covering baby steps on the podcast. But first, if this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. Here's the spoiler policy for today's episode. We're not going to spoil the story of baby steps for a while, per usual, and we'll save some mechanical things, although I don't think talking about particular traversal challenges is a huge spoiler in this game, but we'll tread lightly there a little bit. But story spoilers, we will save those as always. So if you haven't played Baby Steps, you're safe for quite some time. And if you like the show, please consider supporting however you can. There are many ways to do that. You can sign up on Patreon. That's always appreciated. Patreon.com/RealDaveJackson. But there are lots of free ways to do it too. You can tell friends, you can share the episodes in Discord servers, you can leave ratings and reviews on the podcast apps, and if you're here on YouTube, you can hit like, subscribe to the channel, and all that fun stuff. So with all of that being said, I've got a wonderful first-time guest with me here today. It's Josh Galecki. He's one of the hosts of Pixelated Playgrounds podcast, and he's a game developer under the moniker Moonroof Studios. He's also a long-distance walker. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave. Good to be here. This was a fantastic game. I think it was my second favorite game of last year.
Hell yeah.
Got beat out by Silk Song, but this one is one I'll be returning to in the future.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's good to have you on the show first and foremost. One of your co-hosts, Brian, has been on the show several times at this point. And at the time that people are hearing this, Brian was on the show about a month ago. We have this weird crossing of timelines forward and backwards with the scheduling. But I'm happy to have you here. I love your show. And I'm really excited to talk about Baby Steps. And this is a game, I think I remember like the two of us were hanging out. We were like getting beers a while ago. And we were talking about like what would be a game to talk about. And this was even before Baby Steps came out. And I think you had said like, I think this is going to be a fun one to talk about. So here we are.
Hey, here we are months later.
Yeah. So today's game, it is Baby Steps. It is an adventure game developed by Bennett Foddy, Gabe, Cuzillo, and Maxi, Boch, and published by Devolver Digital for PC in 2025. The main credits on the game, it is primarily those three people. Again, Bennett Foddy, Gabe Cuzillo, Maxi, Boch. Sound credits to Jack Schlesinger and Asha Kilborn. And as always, there are more contributors in the full credits. Also, just to say real quick, this game has, if you look through the playtesters, there's a bunch of other game developer names you might recognize. And they do a cool thing in the credits of Baby Steps, where they say, if you like Baby Steps, here's a list of other games you might enjoy. And I think that's really cool. I wish more games would do that.
Oh, that's really interesting. I think I zoned out during the credits.
I was checking, I mean, for outline purposes, I was actually reading the credits the other day and saw that section again. But it's like they name dropped Cairn, they name dropped Big Walk, which is coming up, the new game from House. Might be out by the time people hear this. I don't know. But there's a big list of other, mostly indie games, and Death Stranding is on that list. But a nice gesture by them to say like, hey, you liked our game? Here's games that we think are cool.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of like your musician's favorite musician, you know?
Yeah,
it's fun to trace that path.
And there are games on that list I've never heard of before. So it is cool for those games to get a little like, oh, well, you know, this crew thinks that those games are interesting, so they probably are interesting. Maybe I should look into those. So we have our quick pitches for Baby Steps per usual. I say this is dumb. Baby Steps is Death Stranding with cutscenes that I actually want to watch. Josh, what would you say?
Well, I can't do better than Gabe Cuzillo's original pitch for Baby Steps, which was quap but good. And that got Bennett Foddy along for the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Good pitch from Gabe and good pitch from you too. I played this on PC. Again, only place that's available. I did play it on my actual PC. It took me 12 hours to beat. Do you remember how long your playthrough was?
I was 37 hours into it.
Okay.
Fall down twice, get up 3 times, right?
Yes, exactly. And there is, I'm sure we'll talk more about this later. There is a lot of like places to explore in baby steps. So like it's not a linear path. So you might fall down and be like, "Oh, that looks weird over here. It's not the direction I think I should be going, but let me bypass what my main objective and go check that out." There's a lot of that too.
Hmm. Yeah, and there's interesting things they do in both the level design and world design in order to kind of keep you focused so you never get lost. I'm looking forward
Mhm.
to digging into some of those too.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, before we dig into those, let's do our normal thing and first start with our histories with this game, why we wanted to play it. And since it is primarily three developers in the credits who have some pretty notable work in the past, we can talk a little bit about our histories with those. So, have you played Bennett Foddy's previous games? Have you played Gabe Cuzillo and Maxi Boch's previous games? Bennett Foddy, of course, probably known for the game with his name in the title the most, Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, but also Quap and all three of these developers worked on Ape Out together, which is another game that I played. So, what's your history with them?
I've played Quap back when it first became viral back in 2011 or 12 or so.
Mm,
Just, funny little sprinting game where you have four buttons to control two legs. You
yeah.
fall down a lot. Everyone likes seeing people fall down.
Hmm.
Um, and I heard about this game actually through another video game book club I'm part of with some Boston-based game developers. This was
Okay.
kind of selected as our book of the month, so to speak, and super glad I came along for the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, I did play Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. I like that game quite a bit. I never beat it, but I do like it, and I always like have an itch to go back and play more of it and see if I can get further. And then I did play Ape Out. Didn't beat that game either, but again, I want to replay it. I like that game a lot. And Gabe Cazillo also contributed recently to Despelote, which is a game that I really loved. It was in my really my top five for 2025.
Oh,
So I knew the
nice.
name primarily from that. And then with Baby Steps, I remember seeing like the first trailers for it and thinking like this looks silly first and foremost, and it is silly. But then I started to think and I started to like really pay attention to some of these games that are coming out because I think that turning walking or turning traversal in some of these games case into quote the game, like Death Stranding, like Cairn, which recently came out, like Jusant, which came out a couple years ago now. I like these games. I like the games that are like, we're going to turn the thing you take for granted the most, which is walking in a video game. We're going to make
Mm.
that the game. We're going to build our mechanical systems around that. Or in Karen's case, climbing, which is another thing. You play Uncharted, you just hold the control stick up and press X a few times, you're climbing. And these games are like, no, think about every single move. And I like that a lot. So Baby Steps was immediately like a thing that it looks silly, but also like I feel like attuned to these types of games. I maybe I should go back and try Quap and really test how attuned I actually am to this.
Perhaps a little less attuned than to baby steps, but no, I agree with you about that. Like, there's this sort of I don't know, video games are chock full of power fantasies, right? And
Hmm.
there's this kind of locomotive fantasy, traversal fantasy. You go to Prince of Persia or Assassin's Creed, and
Hmm.
you're doing parkour by pressing an A button. You're playing Tony Hawk, and you do this 680 kickflip or whatever, pressing a couple of buttons. And games like Baby Steps, and in that vein, it really seems like they're having a moment about focusing on complexifying what we typically take for granted inside of video games.
Hmm. Absolutely. And so with Baby Steps, I knew I would play it. I didn't play it right away, but I was ready for it. I was ready to play it and I was excited. And I started to, right before I started, I got this little like doubt in my head. It was like, do you actually think you're going to like this? Or do you want to be the guy that likes this? Do you want to be the guy who's like, no, I understand these non traditional games. I understand this like this like hyper focus on the simple act of walking. Like, I am an elevated gamer. I understand and therefore like these things. And I was like, are you gonna get like, are you gonna get mud all over your face as soon as you start playing this and actually hate it? And then I booted it up and I was like, nope, I fucking love this. This is probably more than any game I've played in recent memory, as far back as I can just recall right now. I have not been as in lockstep with a game in a while as I was with Baby Steps. Like, everything Baby Steps put in front of me and asked me to do, I was like, hell yeah, I love this. The thing that was unexpected was that I thought it would be silly, physical comedy, slapstick, guy falling down stuff. He's wearing a onesie and stuff like that. It's funny, but I didn't expect the amount of depth in the story and like characterization here that I actually think is also quite good and merges with the gameplay that consists of this character being unable to walk in a straight line for 50 meters in a row without falling really well. And we have a lot of stuff to talk about, so I'll kind of like cut that right there, put a pin in that. But I think that this is one of those games that, number one, I like the gameplay a lot. I like what it's asking of me, the player, to do a lot. And I like how those things mesh with the story and characterization in ways that video games often can excel at. And I think this is just a really, really excellent game. It's going to be one of my favorites that I played this year. We're recording this in February, but I'm very confident in saying that.
No, I hear that. And I hear what you're saying. It's, you said earlier, it's a silly game. Or it looks like that, especially when you're first looking at the trailer. It does have a great sense of humor, but I was afraid it was going to kind of be this meme game. This kind of like based around this streamer bait of falling down. I mean, getting over it is what I call as part of the rage platformer genre, where you just get angry at the game you're playing. Baby Steps was very much not like that. I think it wasn't keen into the same emotions. And one of the reasons for that, I think, was the purity of its game mechanic. Like, this was a game about walking, and that's what you got. You aren't you aren't getting upgrades. You aren't getting a double jump at any point. You are walking from the beginning to the end. And it was a joy for me to see the developers, as they built out this idea, as they added in more tests and challenges for you, as they added in playful dares for you to take or not. I think the open world-ish nature of it helped out a lot too there, but we can get into that later on too.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that the game is doing. I agree with you on all of that stuff. I feel like maybe in a really unique way or a fairly unique way, I could play Baby Steps and imagine the developers sitting behind the screen and just kind of like smiling and watching me go through the shit that they've designed for me to go through. And I really enjoy that. I enjoy like feeling that artist's touch in games. It doesn't happen in every game that I play, but you definitely, I think I could feel it in Baby Steps in a fun way.
One of the things I heard from the interview that you were kind enough to link to Secret Lives of Games had an interview with Gabe and Bennett, and they were talking about how they would design these challenges for each other. So even inside the game, it's like they're trying to one-up each other and try to come up with the craziest things possible.
Right. We'll give another shout out for that interview on the Secret Lives of Games podcast. It's a really good podcast, and this interview in particular is like just 2.5 hours of really interesting insight into the making of Baby Steps and their thought process and stuff like that. So definitely recommend people check that out. I'll link it down in the show notes if I remember to do that. So yeah, we've got a lot to dig into. So let's take our first, I don't know how I'm going to do music breaks. This game doesn't really have music like that. Maybe our first nature sounds break. And then when we come back, we'll set up the story of Baby Steps and talk about that walking mechanic.
Oh, shit!
So in Baby Steps, you play as Nate, who is voiced by Gabe Cuzillo. Nate is a kind of stereotypical loser guy, lives in his parents' basement, wearing this like sweat pant hoodie type or onesie type thing. The basement's a mess. It's got pizza boxes, it's got a bong on the coffee table. The TV is displaying like a "Are you still watching One Piece?" Thing. So that's kind of Nate's immediate characterization at the beginning.
The game description specifically calls out Nate as a fail son.
Yeah,
Not like a failed man, but also he's the son, which I think has a lot of, I guess, history with it too. Like this was
sure.
someone who was supposed to grow and sprout, but didn't.
Right. Yeah. And there is some stuff that you can read into regarding maybe gender norms or expectations as like the son in the family, and how Nate is kind of a disappointment. I mean, like it's not hard to read into that and feel like his parents are disappointed in him for sure.
Mhm. But they're coming down. They're going to be calling a family meeting to talk about Nate spending so much time on the couch
Mhm.
when then he's transported
Yeah.
mystically, through Netflix probably, but into a gigantic lake.
Right. It's weird. You're watching that opening cutscene. He's in the basement, and then suddenly it's like, boom, he's out in this wilderness area, and so begins the game. Nate meets a guy. I think it's Mike who he meets at the beginning of the game.
Jim.
Or Jim. Yeah, Mike and Jim are kind of I forget who's who up to a certain point in the story, but meets Jim, who's voiced by Bennett Foddy. Most of the other characters are voiced by Bennett Foddy. And Nate has to pee. That's his main thing. But he refuses to pee in front of anybody. And then Jim says there's a nice bathroom out that way, points off into the distance. And so Nate's going to walk. I think it's kind of funny at the beginning, too. Jim offers Nate a map. And as he offers the map, you get like a GTA style mini map up on the screen for just a few seconds. And then Nate's like, no, I don't need a map. And like refuses all help. And then you're just left to walk vaguely in this direction where there might be a bathroom. That's the starting goal for Nate, is you're in this weird wilderness and Nate has to pee. So you're walking to find a bathroom, I guess.
Mhm. And Nate is really kind of like this awkward, too awkward to ask for help, or too like weirdly independent to ask for help too. Like Jim offers him shoes. Nate
Yeah.
says, "No, I'd rather climb this mountain barefoot." You know.
Right. It's
Oh,
good for the feet.
yeah. And just has all these excuses for why you can't get help. Or, I thought there was something interesting about how there's a lot of people playing video games that will skip tutorials.
Yeah.
And I went to play this game again for the cast, and going through that first sequence where you meet Jim, and he's like, "Oh, you probably have loads of questions. Let me explain to you what's going on." And Nate's just saying, "Can I just go now? Can I just leave?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
those are the players skipping the tutorials right there.
Right. This game has a bunch of jokes about like meta jokes about players of video games. And one really famous, not famous, I guess, but like one notable thing, if you skip every cutscene in the game, they'll do a big unskippable cutscene near the end that's like it's 28 minutes long, you can't skip it, and they talk about the fact that you're probably trying to skip it, but we're not going to let them skip this time. Like this game has jokes about video game players.
Yeah, nothing. I wouldn't say they feel like mean jokes either,
Right.
though. Like they're very much like, "Oh, we put so much work into these cutscenes, and they skipped all of them.
Mhm.
Let's just sit down at a wall and not let this cutscene end."
Right. Exactly. So we have Nate. Nate is this kind of, like we said, he's really awkward. He's really shy, but also like kind of proud in this weird way, unable to accept help or refusing to accept help, just feeling like, nope, I'll do this on my own. Like almost in a way that like what Nate wants more than anything else is for no one to, like, pay attention to him or talk to him. Like, he just wants to be out of this, social situation that he finds himself suddenly in. And he's like, I just have to pee, please. No map, no shoes. I need to go. I gotta go. And then he's off on his own.
Before you even get to Jim and meet him the first time, though, I want to talk about that tutorial
Oh,
they
it's
give
so
you.
good. Yeah.
It starts off with a banger of a joke.
Yes.
It says, press the left stick to move, like every other video game. And you do that, and boom, you fall flat on your face.
Right.
Then it goes on to tell you that what you do need to do to, besides moving the thumbstick around, is use the left and right triggers in order to move your left and right foot up
Right.
and down.
Yeah, the reason you fall flat on your face is because you tried to move forward without picking up your legs, dummy. So of course you fell forward. I agree. I laughed out loud when that happened, and it kind of sets a nice tone for like the developers have jokes. This is going to be a fun game in that way too. But let's talk about the walking, because that's all you do in this game. Like you said, you don't get upgrades, you don't learn to jump or anything like that. You're just walking. So we have this system where you have the left trigger is the left leg, right trigger is the right leg, and then while you're picking up a leg, you can use the stick to move his foot around and like aim where you want to place your foot down. And it takes a minute to get used to this like left leg hold forward, right leg hold forward, and it's like I have a video. I recorded my gameplay of the first couple hours that I played, and watching back, it's like I could maybe take 2 steps in a row before falling down, and then get up, take 1 step, fall down, and you can eventually get a rhythm with walking like in a straight line. If there's ever like a long distance to walk, you'll get in a rhythm where you can generally walk forward without much hassle. But the act of moving never stops being the primary thing on your mind as you're playing this game. You're always thinking, even if you're kind of on autopilot, it's still, I got to get this rhythm with Nate's legs to go. And anything more involved than that, you really have to plan. Left leg here, okay, get a good left leg, and then pick up the right leg, move it a little bit, okay, right leg there, and then let's lift up, left leg, and it becomes this very considered type of thing, and they design all sorts of traversal challenges just built around this one single thing, controlling his individual legs. And this is some of the most engaged and like locked in I've been with a video game in a while, because you can't autopilot through basically anything. You always have to be at least thinking about that rhythm, but most of the time really considering like what is this surface like? Is it flat? Does it have a good place to put his foot? What's it made of? Is it rock? Is it mud? Is it sand? Like all of these things are constantly in the calculus for how you're interacting with the world. And from the first second you start walking all the way until the end, it never stopped being engaging.
I think part of that, talking about that world, is one of the big reasons it feels so engaging. It's not just kind of getting the rhythm of walking, but you're constantly having to evaluate your local environment, what's around you. In other games, there might be like a stick on the ground or a rock, or like, oh, you got to walk through a little stream. And in those games, you just hold down the joystick and you keep on going. In this game, all of those are like things you have to take into account, things you have to work around and figure out, or, heaven forbid you come across some stairs somewhere.
Yeah. Or a slope, like, like I don't know, like a 20-degree slope. You're like, oh man, all right, I gotta focus, because a lot of the times you'll be doing these traversal things in somewhat precarious situations. So like maybe you'll be going up a slope, and if you fall, Nate like ragdolls and just kind of like goes like limp fish in a way. And if you try to move, like thinking of another game where it's like you get knocked down and you hammer on the X button to like get back up as quickly as possible, or at least like that's a habit that I have. If you do that in baby steps, if you hammer on the triggers, Nate will like flail his legs out like a turtle on his back or something. And sometimes that can make the situation worse, and you'll slide. I feel like you always slide like a little bit further than you think you were going to. And
I
so
agree. I think it's like a done on purpose thing, a characterization of Nate.
right.
If he throws a little tantrum for not making it across the bridge, then
Oh yeah.
makes it worse.
His voice lines too, like when you fall, he'll do these little vocal things where he'll go, "Oh man."
Oh, there's the quad.
There's the quad as you're going up like something steep or something like that. I'm trying to remember. He does like a Winnie the Pooh thing when he falls. I can't remember it because we're recording and my brain is currently empty, but he has all these fun voice lines where sometimes you'll fall and you'll like roll down a hill, and once you get to the bottom, Nate will just go, "Oh," and you're like,
Not
yeah,
again.
yeah.
With
It's
those
really
big
funny.
falls too, there was this
Mhm.
great little grace note
Yeah,
that if you do a small fall, you fall on your face right where you are, or maybe you fall down 5 or 6 feet or something like that. Nate gets up automatically. But if you do a big fall, he stays there lying motionless on the ground until you hit the buttons again.
yeah.
So he can just have like this moment of contemplation of like, I've got to get all the way back up there.
Yeah, and you have that moment of contemplation too, because this is a difficult game. There's some pretty difficult challenges in here, especially late in the game. There's a couple things that were like, if you look at the actual distance traveled, it was not that far, but it took me an hour or so to do it.
Hmm.
And it's hard. It can be a really hard game. And so sometimes you'll have those big falls and Nate will just be laying on his back, just staring straight up at the sky. And you feel the same way. You're like, fuck, this is kicking my ass. Like, can I actually do this type of stuff?
It gets you to identify with Nate. That's right. I do
Yeah,
want to say with the big falls, though, I didn't think this game was a rage game at all.
right.
For the most part, the falls you make are going to be very local, like even for
Yes.
the kind of the big drops, like, oh, I have to cross these slippery stones going across this waterfall, and it's this obvious like big fail state. It
Hmm.
only takes about 3 or 4 minutes to get back up to where you were before.
Right.
So unlike, I think, getting over it, you're able to fall back down at the beginning in a lot of the places. This game lets you, it seemed like it was a little bit kinder than that.
Yeah, absolutely. With getting over it, you could fall to the very beginning of that game, and lose tons and tons of progress. And in this game, like you said, even if you take what looks like a big fall, you're actually not that far from where you fell from. And one of the cool things about this is the world is designed in such a way that if you do have a big fall, you probably don't have to go up the exact same way that you just did. A lot of the falls are designed to, maybe you fall down this big thing, you slide down this big mudslide and fall off a cliff, which happened to me. And it felt bad, but then I got down to the bottom and the camera was kind of pointing me at a different direction to go. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I'll go try this other path. And the world, it's not apparent at first, but the world map loops like it's a slice of like the side of a thing, but it loops. So like you can walk around. There's like this mountain you're walking up, and
Mhm.
you can walk around it. And I figured it out maybe halfway through the game because I had one of those huge falls, and it happened a couple times. I was like, you know what, fuck this area. I'm gonna go
Mhm.
walk this way. And I just walked for a while, and eventually I came back and I saw that place again. And I was like, oh, okay, awesome. So that kind of unlocked this thing where, like, okay, if I have a big fall, there are multiple ways to make progress up, because that's usually what you need to do is go up. So if I'm frustrated by this one, I don't have to just keep bashing my head up against that thing. I can go somewhere else. And there's always, you know, different types of challenges in different places in the world map. It's a really good world design.
I'd say too that in that theme of the world design, it's not just the camera angle, but they do this thing where they make interesting things to check out or look down, or they're like,
Yeah.
here's a pathway down here or a cave or a tower. It reminds me a lot of how Breath of the Wild used landmarks,
Yeah.
mountains and rivers and things to kind of direct where the player should go.
Hmm. Right. They don't like, again, Nate refused the map, so you don't get any markers telling you where to go in baby steps.
Oh, you know what's great is he tries to steal Mike's map later on. First, he convinces Mike he doesn't need it. So then Mike's like, yeah, you're right. I'm just going to throw this in the fire. And Nate says, no, no, but it's too late.
Right. Um, so because Nate doesn't have a map, you don't get those map markers. And what they do is they give you this general goal of like, you need to be going up, vaguely up. And then there's usually something off in the distance, like a tower with a light or like a campfire or something like that. And those things, as long as it's something of interest that is vaguely up or like just far away from where I am right now, it's usually progress.
Oh,
Just
they also
following
have
those
the
things.
kind of like the red light
Yeah,
up around them, emitting from them, like, more light than a campfire would give normally.
right. But you always have usually something within your line of sight, like a Breath of the Wild type of thing, where you're like, okay, I made it to this tower that had the light. Now where? And it's like, well, there's like a gate, like a castle gate looking thing over there. Maybe head over there, and you go there, and then you go through that, and you're like, okay, well, I see a street light up there. And if you just follow those things, you'll get where you need to go. And just vaguely remember, try to go up as much as you can. And that's how you make it's really elegant because a character might tell Nate, like, we need you to go here, but like then they leave you alone and you're like, I don't know where that is. So you just
Mhm.
follow the hints that the developers have laid out for you, and you know generally where to go. I never in baby steps was I like, I have no idea where I'm supposed to be moving right now.
Mhm.
So I felt like that was really well done without them ever telling me or giving me a marker or something like that.
Yeah, I think we should mention, like, how full the world is too.
Yeah.
Um, Brian was mentioning when we were talking about this game, what he appreciated was after some of these big falls, there were not just like other routes available, but other things to check out too.
Yeah.
Like, I found my first hat after I did a
Yeah.
fall off the side of a cliff,
Uh-huh.
and it just has these small little things. It doesn't really it's not like a collectibles sort of game. You can find some hats, you can find some, like, stacks of cans on top of each other and kick them down, but that's all you get for that is the pleasure of kicking cans around.
Right. And they have the fruits
Oh,
that
the
are up in these
fruits.
trees, and your reward for the fruits to get them, they're very very precision based platforming challenges, where you have to be really careful and precise with where you place Nate's feet, where his weight is centered, and all of those things. They're tough. And your reward for those is you just get a real weird cutscene out of it, and they're really funny, and I wanted to see them all, but there's no, you don't get achievements. You might get achievements, but it's not, you don't get one for every fruit that you pick up, and you don't get points or anything. Nate never talks about the fruits with anybody else. It's just, it's a combination of you get a weird cutscene as a reward, but your real reward was you got past that platforming challenge. It was tough, and the satisfaction of doing it is good enough for me.
Oh, yeah, for sure, and there's some interesting things this game has to say about accomplishments versus, like, public trophies and achievements like
Mm,
Steam has. But I want to circle back quickly. You were talking about these platforming challenges.
yeah.
This game might seem fairly simple with its input system, stick, two triggers.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of kind of like this mechanical complexity in this that the game slowly and gradually and teaches you in a very like well done manner. The challenges ramp up in difficulty. But there's all sorts of little nuances about walking that you learn. Like, towards the end of the game, you're shimmying along cliff steps. You can't swing your foot all the way up because if you do, your knee shoots up and that pushes you back off of the cliff and you fall into the river
Yeah.
for the fifth time.
Uh-huh.
Or like how there'll be slopes that you can't stand on, but you can step up on them. And Nate will have maybe a quarter second of balance or a half second of balance on them before
Mhm.
he slides off. So sometimes you can step on this one rock to get to another rock and then up to another one, which wouldn't be something you could do slowly. But as you're getting this extra balance going up, you can make that move.
Yeah, for as awkward as it is to just walk in a straight line, or even, to especially to walk with any kind of speed, when you need precision, this game's extremely precise. Like,
Mhm.
there are a lot of platforming challenges in the game that are like you have a very thin thing to walk on and you're above, if you fall, it's going to be an ordeal if you fall to get back up to where you were or something like that. But you always have the precision that you need. There doesn't feel like there's any like randomness to it. There doesn't feel like there's too much jank. It always feels predictable of like, as long as I can put a foot on this thing and have a solid, base to stand on, and as long as the next thing's not too far away, I can do it with precision and I can get across it. It's very reliable in that way. That's what makes those fruit challenges possible, is
Mhm.
because they're ridiculous if you just look at them. But this is actually like it's so precise that all you have to do in a lot of cases is not panic when you're in like a weird precarious situation.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And those fruit challenges, I think that's part of like the teaching the player how these mechanics work. There were a number of side quests on the first part up the mountain. The
Oh
cup
yeah.
from the caravan, the ice creams,
Yeah.
I think there's a trophy too. Did you do those with your playthrough?
I attempted a couple of them. A lot of them I found the place where you're supposed to take the item but never found the
Mhm.
item. There were a couple that I tried. I failed. There's the one where you get a vase and you're supposed to bring it back up to a fire tower. And I fell like within 5 feet of picking up the vase and it broke. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm moving on.
Mhm.
And then I know I didn't do the ice cream one, but I know there's a bunch of jokes related to if you keep failing and retrying the ice cream one, like Nate will go back to the ice cream truck driver and be like, yeah, I need another one. And they
Yeah,
have like 20 different cutscenes for
they
that.
have a large number. I think Cuzillo said that it was something like 10% of the cutscenes
It's just
was
ice cream
around the ice cream.
cutscenes.
And this is another great example of like the developers raising the stakes constantly.
Hmm.
The first of these challenges, which by the way, I did none of them. I think that's why I like got to enjoy the game so much was I wasn't trying to beat my head against a wall doing these challenges before
Yeah.
I was ready for them. But the first challenge is like you take a cup, which is, solid, indestructible. You take this vase, which is fragile, and if you fall hard enough, then it breaks too. The ice creams are actually just large ice sculptures of a trophy that you're taking up to the through the desert to the ice chest.
Yeah.
So not only is it breakable, you're also on a time limit now too, and each one just gets progressively a little more unhinged.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I just, this wasn't a game where I was gonna like backtrack down to find something that I missed. So if it was like, you missed the item that's necessary for this side quest, I wasn't just gonna go like look for it. I was always had like pretty good momentum moving forward through the game. So I didn't do a whole lot of those.
The game did a nice thing about they had this open world style that let you kind of select your own difficulty up to a
Yeah.
point. And I generally opted out of the most nefarious challenges, like the Manbreaker.
Right. I always tried, especially because in the Manbreaker's case, a character tells you not to do it. So me and Nate were both like, well, fuck you, I'm going to try it. So I always tried, but you do get a chance to like select your difficulty, like you said. The Manbreaker would be this game's final boss if it were mandatory, but it's not really, the game is not really built like that. Speaking of tough challenges, something that I think is really cool about this game that ties story in with gameplay is because this game is really hard, and because you're falling a lot, and because Nate is such a punching bag of a guy. I think that this game forms a really strong connection between your mood at the video game and your mood at Nate the character in a
How
way that
so?
I think is really interesting. Like when Nate falls in Baby Steps, I found myself saying things like, "Okay, Nate, get your shit together," or "Okay, Nate, time to lock the fuck in." Or like he would fall and he would do like the dead fish and slide all the way down this fucking thing, and I'm like, come on, Nate, like stick a leg out or something, like do some shit. And
Oh man, some of those slides, they would last. And
they
you just
last,
slowly
yes.
go down the mud.
It's you're moving so slow, but you're still moving, and you can't get up until Nate stops moving. And so you get it. I got in this like kind of frustrated, not like mad at the game, but mad at Nate in a weird way, which I think is really resonant with who Nate is as a character and how other people view him as this fuck up, this disappointment, this fail son. There's something about the way they characterize Nate that made it easy for me to slide into it's Nate's problem, not my problem as the game player, or just like this anonymous thing. Like if you fuck up a jump in Mario and you die, you're not like, come on, Mario, you piece of shit. It's like, come on, Dave, get your jumps right, stuff like that. I think this is like a fairly unique Nate in Baby Steps thing for me. And maybe the game invited me to feel that way with the way that he's characterized. Or maybe it's just you fall in funnier and more like, come on, come on, pick up your feet. Like, stop sliding. Like there's more of that type of thing. I don't know. I'm choosing to say that it's due in part to the characterization for Nate.
I think so, and let me tell you why. I think the comedy for this game came before the story they wanted to tell about Nate. Like, this is a very slapstick game. Best
Yeah.
use of ragdoll physics I've ever seen.
Very
Nate
good. Yeah.
falls a lot, and the developers want this to be funny. I'd laugh at some of the falls I'd take in the game. And they want you to identify with Nate as you're going through and feel the accomplishments for doing what Nate's doing, but also they want you to laugh at him along the way too. They try to create the sense of distance between you and Nate. Part of it is kind of like his awkward social nature, like, oh, he can't even pee behind a bush when no one's watching. He's still has to go off and try to find this bathroom, or he's being a jerk to someone who, I want that map and those shoes and the grappling hook. Why can't Nate just give me these things? Come on, Nate, don't be such a jerk.
Yeah.
That kind of like puts him farther away from you in a way. It increases the distance in a way that makes it easier to laugh at him. Like when you're in, it's been 10 seconds since you've fallen down the mudslide and you're still going down there, and Nate's limbs look funny or something like that. You don't feel bad about laughing at him.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a good way to think of it. The game kind of gives you permission to be like, Nate, you're a piece of shit. Come on. Like sometimes. And I think that's really interesting because I don't feel that way about other platforming characters when they fail. I think that it's the way they characterize Nate that's like, and it's fucked up, but to give me permission to be like, come on, Nate, get your shit together, get on the level with everybody else, like that's part of the story too. I mean, like the learning to walk metaphor as Nate is, we'll talk later about like what what we think is actually going on in the story, but the story does do some really interesting things with that metaphor of learning to walk on your own 2 feet and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I wanted to touch on comedy since you mentioned it. Obviously, the slapstick falling ragdolling is really funny, like you said. Um, this game, there's some other things that contribute lots of comedy to this game. There's some simple things like Nate's ass is huge, massive ass. And it's funny because this is from that Secret Life of Games interview. They asked about why Nate's ass is so big, and they were just like, "Look, you're playing a third-person game. It's what you're looking at for most of the game. We thought it'd be funny if his ass was huge," and I agree. It's very funny. um,
Well, I like the application of jiggle physics
yes,
outside of the normal realm.
right. Yeah, jiggle physics on a man for maybe the first time in video game history. Yeah. Um, And then other quick funny things. There's a lot of penis in this game. And I think full frontal male nudity is funny. And it's like when you turn the game on, they ask you nudity, yes or no. And I was like, okay, what do you mean by that? But also, no, because I'm streaming, I got to turn it off because I streamed the first couple play sessions of this. But when you find why they asked nudity, yes or no, it's really funny. I thought it was hilarious, like most of the time. However juvenile you may think that is of me, I think it's funny to see a big hanging dong, and there's a lot of it in this game.
It gets front and center a little bit, but
Yes,
always kind of played for laughs or set up for laughs.
right. It is a good moment to see the full context of all the nudity, and I won't spoil it all right now. That was a fun thing that someone saved me from being spoiled, and I'm glad that they saved me. So I will save the full details of all that penis for the spoiler section. So, yeah, but the big thing about the humor in this game, the cutscenes are improvised, from what I know, between mostly Gabe Cuzillo as Nate and Bennett Foddy as some NPC. And they are genuinely really funny, I thought. Nate's like stammering nervousness, and then all of these just pretty intense characters that he meets, or intense situations that he finds himself in. You know, by their own admission, they're not like trained professional actors, but they're like, you can tell, like in interviews together or just by listening to the game, they have fun making each other laugh like in real life, and it translates really well to these cutscenes. And this is a game that I said in the elevator pitch, I wanted to watch the cutscenes. Whenever a cutscene started, it was like, okay, controller down. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm watching because it's going to be interesting and it's probably going to be legit funny. I don't know. How did you feel about these?
Loved the cutscenes. The humor was very like not standard, right? Like
Yeah.
little bit of an unhinged flavor. I also think that the characterizations were very well done. Cuzillo does such a amazing Nate voice. Like hearing him talk in other things now, it's hard not to like make the connection between him and Nate.
Yeah.
And think like Nate's talking about game design now.
hmm
But like the characters were also interesting characters that you didn't see a lot of similar types in other media, right? Like, I can't recall people close to Nate, other characters close to Nate or Jim, who is kind of like trying to help people out, but in a power move sort of way.
hmm
Um, they were, it was interesting to see that too. And one of the interesting things from that podcast, The Secret Lives of Games, was hearing Gabe and Foddy talk about the kind of history of the game development, of the archaeology of how some of these things were created, what came first.
hmm
For example, how they talked about how originally they had more characters that they eventually squished down and combined characters in different cutscenes. And Jim was originally just the guy helping you out at the very beginning. And then later on, you kick this Karen over and somebody yells at you. And that was originally a different character, but they said, well, that's going to be Jim now. And then that kind of like kicked off his whole dramatic arc of someone who's trying to be helpful, but eventually getting more and more fed up with Nate's bullshit as the game
Uh-huh.
goes on, which is it's such a good character, but
Hmm.
it kind of evolved from that.
Yeah. The main cast in Baby Steps is pretty small. I would say there's probably three m- main secondary characters, other than, there's Nate and then there's Mike, Jim, and Moose. Those are the
Mhm,
three main characters. And they don't get a lot of screen time, but they make the most of it. They do each have like a distinct characterization. They all do have some sort of arc, and they all play off of Nate in very different ways in because he's like this this shy but kind of a dick, kind of proud but kind of nervous. Like, those are not like stereotypically strong things, but Nate has a very strong personality, and
mhm.
so other characters need to adjust to who Nate is in any kind of interaction, because he's very strong, but on this other side of the spectrum, we don't really have video game protagonists that are not like these, take charge hero types, and so having these other characters that have to react to Nate is always funny too. And a lot of the cutscenes end with the other characters being like, "All right, man, if you say so," like that kind of thing, and then they just kind of go their separate ways.
Part of the fun is it seems like any cutscene you come across, Nate's number one goal is to get out of that cutscene as soon as possible.
Yeah.
He'll come up with any excuse like, "Oh, I'm an elite climber. I don't need maps."
You
Um,
don't need a map. Yeah.
Another thing I want to talk about too with the humor isn't necessarily with the characters in the cutscenes, which are first rate, but the level design itself. Like
Yeah.
the number of objects, the pits that you can find yourself in, and Jim has to help you out of, the challenges and dares that the developers set up for you.
Uh-huh.
Some of my favorites was there was a diving board stuck out the side of a middle of a cliff.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd jump off of that and get some sort of achievement or cinematic or something like that. And I just fell off a
Yep.
cliff and I had to climb back up for 8 minutes like a dummy.
And that's the
But
joke, and it's a
I was
good joke.
I was laughing the whole time. There was even like a picnic table at the bottom by the lake you fall into with a couple of beer cans by it. Or like there's you get to the top of the hill and there's like a wagon that you
Yeah.
can try to
Yeah, I
ride
rode the
down.
wagon. Yeah. It's one of those things where like you see that wagon, you know what the game is like kind of daring you to do, and you know it's not going to end well, but you're like, I got to see what happens if I step in this wagon and it starts rolling downhill. And it was exactly what I thought would happen. It was just as funny as I thought it would be. It's a great little joke.
I think the level design was very playful. Like it had an honest sense of play about it that you don't need to get to the fire tower right now. You can just mess around with this wagon or this soccer ball or
Hmm.
anything else. And the game will refuse to acknowledge anything you're doing, but it's still going to
Yeah.
let you play around with it.
Right. Kind of in both directions. Like, it's never going to push you forward, and it's never going to really reward you for doing all of those extracurricular things. Like, maybe you get an achievement for collecting all the hats. I don't know. But
Well, that goes back to that kind of that purity of game design. This is the game just about walking. There's
yeah.
never going to be an upgrade or a key at the end of these paths here,
Hmm.
which almost holds true. There's one item you can get that kind of breaks that rule a little bit.
Oh, I did not get it. So we'll talk about it in the spoiler section for sure.
An orange. Oh, it's so fragrant. Oh, yes, that was so tangy and good and sweet. Oh, God, yes. Oh, orange!
I don't have like a ton to say about this stuff, but I think that this game looks really good. Like, visual style is really good. Character designs, especially, are very memorable. Faces are a little unhinged, but in like a funny, charming sort of way.
Hmm.
The environment's really pretty. And as you're walking through, this game doesn't have like music in the traditional video game sense, but it does have diegetic nature sounds that sometimes will like become like the insects are all chirping on a beat, and
Mhm.
it will create this sort of like rhythm as you're walking, all out of like the birds and the insects and stuff like that.
I actually looked up the, I guess, composer, Asher
Yeah.
Kilborn, who is kind of like this, not my typical style of music, but I guess like grindcore sort of thing, where she
Ah.
does similar stuff to that Baby Steps, frogs croaking on the beat, but
Huh.
like at clubs in New York or something like that.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, a good use of skills in baby steps for sure. Cause like I always kind of, you notice it as just like nature sounds. And then eventually you're walking and you're like, you hear like this beat of like
Mhm.
frogs and insects and stuff. And you kind of like start nodding your head a little bit. I'll try to find some and like maybe isolate some from my recording to put in the episode so people can hear it. But it's really cool in the game when you kind of you stop 100% focusing on where you're placing your feet, and you're like, huh, the frogs are doing a little song right now, and it's kind of cool.
Oh, on the topic of audio too, the sound design for this game was great. It
Hmm.
provided so much information for you with what you were walking on.
Yeah.
Is it slippery? Are you crunching on snow or slipping on sand? All sorts of tiny audio cues that you would get by using your ears. And when you lay down your foot, what kind of sound is it making?
Hmm. Yeah, it's good feedback for sure, and you need it because like maybe you don't fall right away if you're standing on something slippery, but you need to know that it is slippery so that like maybe you need to move quickly, maybe you need to move very slowly. Like the game will teach you the best ways to approach these different surfaces so that you don't fall too many times, but that information is really helpful for sure.
Or when you're kind of this was just happening to me last night, but crossing over from one terrain type to the other, like trying to cross a mudslide
Yeah.
and being like, "Oh, okay, this is solid ground here because it
Yes.
didn't squish so much."
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff for sure. Um,
On the topic of sound too, how many exertions, like those grunts and whatnot, do you think Cuzillo had to record for that? Like 2 hours, 3 hours worth?
there's a lot. There's a lot of different ones. Like there are repeating like the ones when Nate falls down and stuff, but like the exertions when you're climbing, like oh, there's the quad, like that one is pretty memorable. But there's a bunch of others when you're just kind of like doing your normal stuff and a bunch of grunts of effort. That reminds me of another visual thing that's kind of funny. There's like a like dynamic sweat as you're going. Like if you're in a
The
hot
dynamic
area,
onesie soilage system.
yeah, you'll start to see like that sweat like wetting the back of Nate's onesie, like down the middle of his back and like his ass crack and stuff. Like it's pretty funny, but another visual thing. There's no like survival, you know, oh, Nate's too hot. There's nothing like that. It's just a visual thing to be like, oh, look, Nate's working hard. Look at him go.
It's a good thing, and yeah, it gives you kind of like a nice, I don't know, like footprints that the land leaves on you, right? Like
Hmm.
you're in the water and then your onesie looks like a seal skin for a little bit.
Yes.
In terms of the sounds, I directed
Hmm.
Brian to a couple of the trailers for Baby Steps, which had like good audio you could extract for music breaks.
Oh, yeah.
Some of it does have like Nate hitting the ground and going, "Ow," but I think that's appropriate for this game.
It's part of the game, part of the experience for sure. So we'll look into that. So I think that this is a good time to kind of do our non-spoiler wrap up part, and we'll get into the spoiler section coming up. And there is again a good amount of like interesting story stuff to talk about in the spoiler section in here. We'll talk about some of those challenges and good stuff like that. But before we do that, Josh, do you have a particular type of gamer that you would especially recommend Baby Steps to, who do you think this would appeal to?
Oh, let's see. I think people who enjoy hiking.
Uh-huh.
This game captures a lot of the same feelings that I got when I would go on a hike. You have to be aware of what you're doing in the moment. You have to be aware of where your goal is. You have to kind of make decisions about where to go sometimes, which path to go down or when to go off the path. Um, and this game really would leave me in a meditative state sometimes, like if I was
Mhm.
off on a couple-hour hike somewhere where you can kind of be alone with your thoughts because your brain's also trying to not fall down a cliff.
Yes. I do distinctly remember, like, there was one, like, near, like, 12, 14-hour hike that some friends and I did in Korea, where by the end of that, I was, like, putting all of my attention on, like, right foot on this rock, left foot on this rock, like, over and over again, 1,000 times on the way down from this thing, just to make sure I don't slip and fall. And it was like all I could focus on. I was so tired and worn out from all, like, an extremely full day of hiking. And this game, same type of deal. Sometimes you're in that mode where it's like, I can't focus on anything except where Nate's right foot is going right now. And so you do get a little bit of that too. But this game does have that meditative side to it, where there's a certain type of game that kind of demands your attention as a gamer, but still allows you a little bit of, like, space to not not be stressed all the time, but you're still focused, if that makes sense, where you do get that meditative effect of, like, I can't really think about anything else, but I'm having a good time playing it. The Souls games are like that for me too, where, like, I'm not really stressed playing them, but I have to be focused. And therefore, they are kind of meditative because it clears everything else out of my brain because there's no space for it. All I have room for is where Nate's feet are going. And that's a real thing in this game.
Well, there's a thing too where the levels they have pacing to them too, right?
Yes.
Like it's not like in a Souls game, if you did boss after boss after boss, there's a boss and then there's some schmucks you gotta mop up along the hallways,
Hmm.
another ambush, because they're always ambushing you in those games. But
Yes.
likewise in Baby Steps, there's the hard, challenging sections, but it's not immediately another challenge after that. There's some
Yeah.
more kind of like, okay, you can relax and just kind of walk around, and it doesn't matter if you fall down on your face because you're trying to take big steps here, because that's
Right.
okay.
Hmm. Or cutscenes and stuff like that. So I think the hiking recommendation is apt for sure. And I think that this game is great for anyone who wants this. It's become a kind of style of game. Like, I feel like there's enough of these, enough high profile ones, high-ish profile, where, like, if you like the games that kind of demand that you consider every action that you make, like in a real-time game, like Death Stranding, like Cairn. A lot of people have really liked Cairn at the beginning of 2026 here, myself included. If you want that, but just like horizontal, I guess, like Baby Steps is really good for that style of gameplay. And then again, there is more under the surface than, like, what you'll see. It's as goofy as you think it is, but there is more substance to it, which we're going to talk about coming up here soon. So, yeah, I really like this game, and I think we've gone through the non-spoiler section. I don't really have any points of criticism for this. Like, I'm just 100% resonant with what this game is doing.
Oh man, there's a characterization of Nate, something he does, and I call it Act Two, that I didn't like, and
Mm.
I'm still trying to figure out an interpretation that I do like. But we'll get into that later on.
Yeah, for sure. So, um, easy recommendations for both of us. For the right type of player, this game's not going to be everybody's favorite, but for the right person, I think it's going to hit pretty well. So, before we get into spoilers, we do our housekeeping per usual, and we always start with the work that the guest does. And so, as I said at the top, Josh is a member of the Pixelated Playgrounds podcast, and you have your games, Moonroof Studios. So, please tell the people about all of your creative work and where they can find it.
Oh, all right. Pixelated Playgrounds, been casting with Brian and with Clint, oh man, for almost a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
We enjoy it. We have fun with it. And then game development is my kind of obsession in life. I've been doing solo development for as long as that. And put out a cyberpunk city builder called Neon Garten last year, working on a colony sim and something coming out that's, I don't know if you've heard of this game called Soiku. It's like this drop fruit, merge it
Oh
together.
yeah, the Suika game. Yeah.
Suika, yeah. I played a knockoff of that, but really liked it, and I'm making a kind of roguelike dungeon crawler based off of that. So you drop
Okay.
two sword balls together, it does damage when they combine. So that'll be actually coming out on itch next week at the
Oh
time of
shit.
this
Okay.
recording. So my itch page is the best place to check out my game development stuff. joshuagalecki.itch.io.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Pixelated Playgrounds, very similar. Like, I think the audience, people who like this show, will also like Pixelated Playgrounds because you also do one game per episode. You all usually do full spoilers, which I don't do, but the discussion is worth it. If you don't mind spoilers, obviously, the discussions are always really good. It's a, pretty consistent listen for me whenever a new one pops up. And kind of, a cool thing about the show is like, if you're not, into a game or don't want to play it, then maybe Brian and Clint will talk about it. If Clint's not available, you and Brian will talk about it. It's a cool thing. It takes some pressure off of you guys, I'm sure, to not have to play every single game that someone else wants to talk about,
Yeah, and we'll kind of go all around the catalog. We'll play some of the latest and greatest games. I think me and Brian just casted on Donkey Kong 94.
Oh, hell yeah.
And then
Good
we'll
game.
do obscure indie titles too.
Mhm.
There was a fun one we put out on a game called Mosalina.
Yes. Dude,
Just
that's
really weird little
one of the
guy.
games in the recommendations in the Baby Steps credits is
Oh, nice.
Mosalina. Yeah.
Nice. That was another game about kind of like a sense of play. It would give you impossible levels and say, I don't know, figure it out or die and restart.
Yeah. That's I bought that a while ago. I just need to play it. So yeah, good recommendations for the podcast Pixelated Playgrounds. And then if any of those types of games sound interesting to you, please go check those out. On the itch page, the games are also on Steam. Most of them are also on Steam, right?
I've got 3 commercial games out on Steam now. The itch
Okay.
page will have in development and some prototypes as well.
Right. So
But
a
all the
lot
Steam
of stuff.
games too.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to check out there. So I'll put links to everything down in the show notes so people can easily find that stuff. I am intrigued by the Suika game Dungeon Crawler now. I'm interested to check that out. By the time people hear this episode, that will be available, so people can go check that out for sure. So yeah, down in the show notes, please check out the podcast and check out Josh's games. And yeah, a lot of stuff to keep you entertained. So I did most of my plugs at the top of the show. The last one that I didn't mention is the Discord server. So if anyone would like to join us, we are a lively and friendly group. We would love to have you come in, chat about the games that you play, talk about Baby Steps as the game of the week, as it were. And there's an invite link for that down in the show notes as well. Yeah, we'd love to have you. So we're going to take a break. I'm going to say thank you to the patrons and all that fun stuff. And then when we come back, it's going to be full spoiler time for Baby Steps. All right, before we get to full spoiler time for Baby Steps, I'd like to say thank you to the patrons who help support the show. A big hearty thank you and shout out goes out to Chris Nelson, Zulgeek, Chris Copleen, Rick Firestone, Nick Fakori, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Stefan, Drellish, Rigamort, Silcanet, Levi, John E., Aliasi, Joseph Hooper, Aaron, Squill, Alan Kress, Doug T., Retro Overdrive, One of Many Tots, Magic Crow, Curly Bright, Ian L., Steve Yeager, Trash Dog Actual, Matthew Maloney, Delaney and Jack McBride, Ethan Young, Michael Lassen, Michael Matuzak, Keith B., and many more. Thank you all for your support. It really means a lot to me, and it helps out in a lot of different ways. And if anyone out there would like to join them and get some cool treats in return, you can do so by heading on over to patreon.com/realdavejackson. Now, with that being said, it's time to get back to full spoiler time for Baby Steps. All right, we're back. It's full spoiler time for Baby Steps. And the usual kind of disclaimers that I give apply here too. We're not going to go on a linear walk through. I did not plan that. I always say that, but we're not going to go on a linear walk through Baby Steps. We are going to jump around, and we are going to talk about the ending. I don't know, probably somewhat recently. We're going to talk about end game challenge type stuff very soon. So if you haven't played Baby Steps, you don't want any spoilers. If you're halfway through it, go finish the game, come back. We'll be here. We'll just be sitting here waiting, playing on our phones or whatever. So that being said, also there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of optional stuff. We're not going to talk about everything in the game. That's never what this podcast is, but just getting that out there as well. So with all those being said, let's talk Manbreaker, and I guess we can talk about Jim a little bit, because that's Jim's baby is the stairs. So as you said at the beginning, Jim is he's offering help to everybody. There's a little bit of like a sinister, like, I have power over you if you take my help type of thing, but it doesn't always feel that way. It becomes kind of that way, like this adversarial, like, you know, if you take the help that I'm offering you, you have to literally call me Lord. That's the thing that he says when you get to the Manbreaker, is if you take the stairs that I built, you have to call me Lord. But you shouldn't take the Manbreaker. And Nate is such a dick about this whole thing. Like, this is a challenge that a challenge or an offer in the form of a challenge or something like that Nate just like can't handle. And so he's a dick. And so Jim is like, you know what? If you take the stairs, then you have to call me Lord. And Nate says, you know what? I'm going to do the Manbreaker. And the Manbreaker, for anyone who didn't play, is this insane cliffside climb. It's incredibly long. Did you do the Manbreaker?
I sure didn't. I took those stairs right up to the top.
Did you attempt the Manbreaker?
No, not at that point.
Okay, so I tried it, and I think I was on the Manbreaker for like easily 15, 20 minutes. And sometimes you'll get to a point in the Manbreaker on the cliffside where you can actually get a view up to see how much more is left. And it was like, I was maybe 20%, 25% of the way up. And it's really hard. And I've seen some stuff that's at like the top, and it's really diabolical shit near the top of the Manbreaker. But I fell off, and it's like, you're so high up. It takes like 10 seconds for Nate to fall down to the bottom of it, because you're so high, but you barely made a dent in the Manbreaker. So, I ended up taking the stairs, and we say stairs again, for anyone who didn't play, it's a spiral staircase, which is really cumbersome in Baby Steps to climb a spiral staircase. And so that was really awkward too. And I fell a bunch of times, and like Nate's legs and arms are like sticking out the side of like the grate, or like the, the barrier and stuff like that. And climbing the stairs took 10 minutes probably, even though it's just climbing stairs. And you can't really fall too far down if you fall. But yeah, this part was really funny, and I was just like so happy doing this part, because I knew there was going to be a funny payoff to it. And the Manbreaker is such a funny, like, developers being like, all right, player, like, you want a challenge? Here's our real fuck you of it. It's the only fuck you of a challenge that this game has.
Oh, there's a few more too.
You think so?
The most obvious. That's the one you got to get before credits.
Okay. What else would you consider to be a fuck you challenge?
I think getting to the top of the mountain
Okay, yeah, that
and
seemed impossible to me. Like I had to look in a YouTube video to see like someone actually doing it, and I was like, I didn't even know you could do that.
and then the sculpture garden has a bunch of like invisible spinning cubes.
Oh, okay. I don't think I found that place.
Yeah, no, not hard to do, hard to do. No, I did like the Manbreaker a lot, just as a concept. It was kind of
Yeah,
like the culmination of the dramatic arc between Jim and Nate,
yeah,
their rivalry. And I don't see Jim as kind of like doing this power move shit on everybody that he helps out. I see him as like a helpful guy, but like Nate is so helpless and outright refuses all this help. Like the lanterns that Jim brings in the temple, Nate's just like, no, no, I don't need a lantern. I'll just crawl in the dark
yeah.
instead. All the times Jim rescues Nate from a flea pit or the half pipe that you can't escape from in the desert.
Uh-huh.
Like Jim's just never gotten a thank you out of Nate, and Nate's just like knocking over outhouses and religious artifacts and things like
Uh-huh.
that. So I think the Manbreaker. I don't think Jim makes everybody call him Lord when they go up Manbreaker or the stairs. In my
Right.
head canon, but when you
Yeah.
do go up to the top, if you do take the stairs, um, then Jim pins a little pin on you, puts a little badge on your onesie, and you get
Uh-huh.
to wear that for the rest of the game.
Yep. You do get an achievement for becoming part of Jim's like club or something like that.
Jiminy's Crickets.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that. And yeah, he makes Nate call him Lord, and Nate does it. And it's kind of funny. And it's like, I don't feel bad for Nate, even though Jim's kind of being a dick, because Nate was a dick to him the whole time. It's interesting you mentioned, I found some of those inescapable pits, and I never fell in one because I was like, I looked at the swimming pool, the empty pool, and I was like, I'm not gonna be able to get out of there. So I'm not going in there.
See, I looked around and I thought that too, but then I thought, hey, is that a skateboard inside of there?
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna go check that out.
That's fair. Yeah. I did kick the outhouse off the cliff, and Jim comes up to yell at you for that. And then there's in the snowy area, there's a snowman you can go destroy, and Jim will come over and yell at you for that as well.
Hmm.
So like from from Jim's perspective, or at least the way that it kind of plays out, his only interactions with Nate are saving him from these inescapable places. And like you said, Nate never says thank you, or offering him help, which Nate declines, or just happening across the very moment when Nate kicks a cairn over or kicks an outhouse off a cliff or some other asshole move. And he's just like, by like the last time, like I think the one of them, he just looks at him like, what? Who? Like, what are you? Like, why are you the way that you are?
Oh, it's good. It's good. Like, yeah, good characterization. I feel this is maybe the driving arc character wise, maybe Nate's growth and development, but kind of like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, that was less funny than the Jim versus Nate low key rivalry.
Right. It
It
was
feels
always
weird
funny.
calling it a rivalry even because it's so one sided. It's just like Nate secretly needing help, but trying to tell Jim he doesn't need help, and
Right.
just being like dying in a half pipe in the middle of the desert. Be like,
Right.
yeah, maybe just like leave some stairs here. I think somebody else might need these stairs.
Uh-huh. It's interesting if you climb the Manbreaker. So I watched this cutscene. If you do actually make it to the top up the Manbreaker, Jim like can't believe it that Nate was able to do this. And Nate's like really cocky about it. He's like, yeah, I'm a pro climber and all this shit. And Nate says he starts being a dick to Jim and just being like, yeah, maybe the stairs were superfluous. And Jim has this identity crisis, and he says something to the effect of, maybe if the stairs were superfluous, and the stairs are like his proudest achievement is making these stairs to help people climb this unclimbable cliff face. He says if the stairs were superfluous, maybe Jim was superfluous. And he turns around and walks off the cliff. And, this world has weirdo dream logic, so it's like he's probably fine, but
Oh, canonically, he's fine too. There's a point where
okay.
Mike and Nate are chatting into the cutscene, and Mike's just looking over the edge. He's like, "I could jump down. You know, you could jump down too. Nobody
Uh-huh.
dies here. You
Okay,
can't
right.
die."
I remember that now that you mention it. So yeah, Jim is fine, but he sure walked off the cliff like he didn't care if he was fine or not. And Nate watches him walk off the cliff and he's like, he's probably okay. Guy's got problems. And then he turns around and walks away.
Nate
So
move right there.
yeah, too nervous to offer help, probably, even if he felt bad or something like that. So that's the Manbreaker. A very funny thing that just like I was doing the Manbreaker and it's really hard. Even the portion that I was able to do, because I only tried it once, I got, like I said, maybe a quarter of the way up, and it was tough. And the whole time I was doing it, I was like, this is one of those things where I'm doing the Manbreaker. The game told me, don't do the Manbreaker. It's too hard. It gave you an out with the stairs. It gave you permission to not do the hard challenge. But here I am, me and Nate, same mind, doing the thing that everyone told us not to do because there's no reason to do it. And it's too hard and it's ridiculous to even try it. And I'm going up the Manbreaker, and I can, in a way, imagine like a one-sided mirror type thing with the three developers on the other side of the mirror watching, just being like, this fucking guy's going to do the Manbreaker. Like we gave him stairs and they're all going to try it. And I bet a good number of players will do the thing that Nate did and try it at least once just to see.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a funny thing too when you're going up the Manbreaker, regardless of if you choose the stairs or the cliff path, you meet Mike, who chose the other one on the way up. And if you're going
Yes.
up the stairs, he's like, "I'm doing the Manbreaker. I'm one with nature. It's a really meditative experience." And if you do the Manbreaker, he's going up the stairs. He's like, "Why are you going up there? There's stairs right here. They go to the same place."
Yeah,
So he questions your logic regardless of what you choose.
right. It's good. Good stuff. Also, I didn't really know where to put this, but right after the Manbreaker, there's a giant woman. Did you find her? Is this a
Yeah, she's at
mandatory
the
thing?
next campsite. It'll be mandatory.
Oh, right, because she picks you up and lifts you to the cliff thing that I think gives you access to the next area.
Mhm.
Really weird cutscene. There's just this giant woman who picks Nate up and sings him a lullaby, and he
And
falls asleep in
kinda
her
like
hands.
cuddle, yeah. Does a
Yeah,
baby hold with him.
yeah. Just in case you forgot, like the characterization of Nate as a man child or a literal baby learning to walk. One of the other obstacles that stuck out to me that was possibly mandatory is the train. Did you do the train?
I did do the train. I wanna say it is, but I'm not sure. There's probably some other ways up the mountain.
That's what I
Um,
figured.
Really interesting thing to do, though. Like, you're climbing up this train that's almost vertical off this cliffside.
Yeah,
So, like,
it's Uncharted 2. Uncharted 2 has like a really famous scene where Nathan Drake, another Nate, I guess, is
mm,
going up a train that's hanging off a cliffside. And you're doing it's the same type of thing, but it's not Uncharted climbing, it's baby steps climbing.
no hands, just feet.
Right? Oh, if you could just reach out an arm and grab onto one of those seats for a little bit of stability in this
Mm,
fucking
mm.
train.
If only, if only.
I thought this was really hard, but I thought it was a genuinely like fun challenge to puzzle out. This is one of those ones where you have to figure out the route. Like, how do you turn this random assortment of chairs and suitcases and shit into a way to climb vertically through these train cars and come out the top? It's a really fun challenge.
Yeah, that was a memorable one for sure. Just because it was so different than what you've had before in the game, right? Like there's been challenges aplenty, but none of them on that quite terrain, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. The other ones that stick out in my head as far as like challenges go are some of the optional ones that I did. So I got every fruit that I found, like that
Hmm.
I saw. It was probably like 4 or 5 of them. I know there's some that I probably just didn't come across, but I did all of them that I actually found.
Hmm.
How many of these did you do? The fruits?
I'd guess I got 7 or 8 of them. Like,
Okay.
I would, there were a few that I tried a few times and moved on. That was kind of my philosophy with this game. I know this is optional here. I'm not going to break my enjoyment for this game by doing something that, like is going to be too frustrating or too difficult. So
Hmm.
I'll stretch myself and push myself, but not necessarily like I've never been a completionist, and I certainly didn't feel bad in this game. Except being
Yeah.
like, oh nope, don't need that pomegranate. Sorry, Nate.
Yeah. If I think that a challenge like this is fair, I will do it until I complete it.
Hmm.
And baby steps, to its credit, I felt like they were fair. The Manbreaker notwithstanding, that was one where I was like, it's look at how much I struggled to get 25% up the way of this thing. I know it's just going to get harder, so I'm taking the stairs. But for the fruits, I did those. The ones that stand out to me the most, and I don't remember what the actual fruit was, but the one where you have to step on a swing as part of it, and it's like on a cliffside,
Oh my
and
goodness.
it's just a real, again, it's like the developer staring you in the face and you're like, you're stepping on a very unstable thing. You have to step across a moving swing basically
Hmm.
to get into this tree, which is then hard to traverse up. And if you fail, you're going to fall off this cliff and it's going to take you 5 minutes before you can get back and try it again.
Hmm.
And I was like, all right, challenge accepted. I fell off probably 10 times and I got it done. The one time I got it done, I found it genuinely fun. Um, but again, in that way where I can feel them staring back at me, being like, "You don't have to do this, man. You can
You could
move
just
on."
take the stairs. You could
Yeah,
just take the stairs.
yeah. All you get is these weird cutscenes where Cuzillo just like improvises whatever pops into his head about the fruit in question, and then Nate eats the whole thing like whole. In orange, he eats like the peel and everything. Like he eats it and then just yells the name of the fruit. The camera zooms way out and shows Nate, yelling off into the distance in a really funny way. Those cutscenes are really weird, but they were a great, like, because those challenges are hard. So by the time I get there, I'm like my nerves are frayed, and it's like a great sit back, watch this fucking weird cutscene, and just kind of exhale a little bit, laugh, and then on with the journey.
Well, like those cutscenes are kind of like almost reward cutscenes, right? Like
Yeah.
it's the game acknowledges the work you did with the fruit with the small bit of cutscene. Like
Yeah.
I was talking about the cup and the ice cream challenge before and things like that. I watched the cutscenes where Nate finishes them and puts the object in, and they last like a second and a half. He puts the cup
Okay.
in and closes a box lid, and that's it. Like I think that game that's more the game like refusing to acknowledge things. So these do feel like more rewards, if you will.
Yeah.
I do have two favorite obstacles of my
Yeah.
own.
Hmm.
The first one was in the temple. This is where Nate has been heading to the whole game, or
Yeah.
I guess after Ethan, the first donkey you meet, tells him that you need cigarettes, so you have to go up to the castle and make a wish.
Right. Use your wish to wish for cigarettes for all of us
We
because we
need
smoked
lots
all
of
of ours.
cigarettes.
Yeah.
You can wish for anything you want, so wish for cigarettes.
Yeah. Do it for us, by the way. Like, don't make a wish for yourself. Like, do us a solid and wish for cigarettes for all of us.
But you're going through the temple on the way up there. You have your lantern going through the dark, and I thought this was like going to be the end of the game.
Mm.
I think this is one of the reasons why I kind of like did the stairs instead of trying the Manbreaker was that I thought like all of Act 2 I didn't see coming. I thought
Mm.
like Act 1 in the temple was going to be it and that was going to be the end. So I thought this was the final boss of the game, but you come across an escalator going
Oh,
down
yeah.
and you have
Yes.
to walk up the down escalator.
Yes. It's really hard too. Like I fell so many times trying to get up. It's not a long escalator either. Like it when you finally do it, It has 5 seconds to get up to the top, but it's really hard to pull it off. I remember turning the corner, just being like, "Ah, fuck you," when I saw the escalator, and it's a down escalator, like
Of
you
course,
said.
it's a down one.
Yeah, really good.
So I like that one a lot. And then, we mentioned hats before,
Yeah.
but we never really like got into the details on the mechanics. Hats are these optional things you can get. They'll be hidden in a tree or in a tower or someplace you have to
Hmm.
get to, do a climbing challenge. But you can put them on and you just wear them. Um, there's one hat, however, that has an in-game effect. Uh, by the diving board, there's another lake, and there's a tower that you can get to the top, and it's a GoPro helmet. And if you
Okay.
put on the GoPro helmet, it's no longer a third person perspective. You are now in a first person perspective,
Oh
which
shit.
means you have to look down to see where your feet are landing
Oh
each time.
no.
I could not get that hat off of me fast enough.
Yeah. Well, luckily it's not hard to get rid of a hat. All you have to do is take a somewhat large fall
I
and it'll
feel like
fall
this one
off.
felt a little stickier. I kept trying to fall and get it off, and it wasn't going.
It would be really funny if that's like a developer joke. Like, you're not wearing a hat, you have a GoPro strapped to your head. Like,
Maybe
it's not going to fall off as easily.
that's the justification for it.
Yeah, that would be funny. I did find a frog hat that I tried for a while because, like, you fall, the hat falls off. Sometimes the hat like slides down the hill, and it's like, do I want to go down and get the hat and have to go back up that hill? And usually I did. And then there was one area where I took a huge fall and the hat fell like into a really inconvenient place. I was like, you know what? We had a good run with the hat, but we're leaving it behind. Speaking of the hat, um, this was the frog hat. Did you get like a pixel art, like old PC game ass cutscene of,
Yeah.
yeah, of like Nate having a weird sexual encounter?
So like, I wanted to with the hats first. I just think it's
Yeah,
brilliant that you don't get anything for them, or you think you don't get anything for them,
right,
just get to wear them, and they make climbing harder because when you take the fall, maybe the hat falls down farther, and you got to make that choice. I always
right.
saved the hat. Um, but
Sorry, like, so specifically I asked that question because like I had the frog hat at that time and that cutscene started with a bunch of frogs. So I was like, is this related to the hat in some weird way?
if you wear certain hats to a campfire, a campsite, like the chapter breaks,
Yeah.
then you can get what I think Bennett Foddy called an anxiety dream of
Okay.
Nate's.
Okay. That makes sense
Which,
then.
yeah, it was really weird. So it's kind of like a little Nate background about some of his fears,
Yeah.
about his. So you learn a little bit about like I remember there was one dream where you're like this knight on a quest, and you're going for the Holy Grail, and you find out at the end of the cutscene it's your parents kind of worshiping an award that your little sister Cassie won.
Oh, okay.
So kind of like, oh, so this is what Nate thinks of trophies. This is why he keeps trying to get his own trophy and things like that in the game,
Mm,
to kind of measure up with the parents. So little hints and background into Nate's real life.
yeah.
Like he works in a burger fast food place. Um, Dad took him camping once. He doesn't like to go swimming, like all small things. There were just little bits of background flavor rather than any large revelation.
Okay. Yeah. The one that, so I only got one of those. The frog hat was the only one that I actually picked up. And I think I saw another hat and I was in a place where I was like, I'm not getting that fucking thing. So I just kept moving. But the frog one, yeah, the dream that he had is about like reliving this like very awkward and apparently very like he feels shameful about it, like some sexual encounter that he had when he was younger, that he feels embarrassed about. And that was really uh it like this game does this sometimes where like you're in like this goofy comedy sort of mood with baby steps and then it can like slice right through that with some realness, and that was, I think that was the first time that this game did that with me. And if it's in an
Yeah.
optional cutscene, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, the game does have a lot of, I don't know, a lot of emotion, a lot of heart in it that is kind of underneath that comedy exterior. You do laugh at Nate, but I do think you kind of like start rooting for him too, especially when you guys are taking this journey together step by step, quite literally.
Uh-huh.
um you're getting over these challenges, you're learning how to do things, Nate's learning to do this, he's becoming a little bit more of his own person. um in the train that you were talking about, you
Mhm.
can get one of the 3 phone calls from your dad. I
Yeah.
don't know if you saw this one.
Uh-huh. I think I saw all 3 of these.
In the first 2, it's yeah, his dad's very dismissive. He's like, "Oh, it's great you've moved out of the place. We've turned it into a rec room. Oh, you know, your little sister Cassie's coming over for try to come over for dinner. She's bringing her new boyfriend. Try to wear a shirt instead
Yeah.
of just like a onesie."
Uh-huh.
But by the third one, you're, almost climbed up to the mountain. I think this is the last big obstacle before credits. And Nate's talking to his dad and talking about the mountain climbing, and his dad's actually like impressed with his son just a little bit for what seems like it must be the first time in a couple of decades.
Mhm. Yeah, it's, kind of in that sort of Nate delivery like he's done a couple times to like get out of conversations, but this time he says like I'm out climbing a mountain, and it's like it's actually true this
Mhm.
time that like that's what he's doing. And yeah, the I didn't know how many of those phone calls there were, so I'm glad that I found all or most of those. They're pretty hard to like. It's hard to miss that they're available and nearby because you hear the phone ringing like really loud. But this game, like, I didn't go everywhere on the map, so I wondered if I had seen them all. So I did get that last one for sure.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about Nate then and that journey that Nate goes on. Um, so we talked about like Nate's portrayal at the beginning of the game as he's this failure of a son, uh general, the stereotypical guy who lives in his parents' basement well past the socially acceptable age to live in his parents' basement. Just kind of smoking weed, eating pizza, watching anime and stuff like that. He's a stereotype. And when he gets in these social situations, like we said, he refuses all help, and it seems to might be a little bit of like pride or like something like that, but it really feels like his main driver in these interactions is please don't talk to me, please don't pay attention to me. I want to be out of this interaction as quickly as possible
Mhm.
because I'm socially awkward and like have extremely low self-esteem and all of these things. And as you go, Nate kind of solidifies a little bit. It's funny that like a lot of the interactions that you have, like with Jim especially, Nate finds his voice a little bit, but he's an asshole to Jim at the end of the game. So it's interesting that that's like part of his characterization as you go is him finding his voice means like, yeah, he sticks up for himself a little bit, but he is kind of a dick. And he later on, there's the part with Mike where he convinces Mike to like get rid of the map and burn it, and then like not long after that, Mike is like stuck somewhere and needs help, like for the first
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
because Nate convinced him you don't need a map and all this shit. I think
Yeah, that was I think I mentioned, like, my one criticism of the game, and I feel that's the one false step, is I
with
feel
Nate.
that you've been seeing Nate kind of grow. He starts off as this kind of, like, insecure person, doesn't even know how to walk, per the game, and he learns how to do that, you learn how to do that, he's learning to climb the mountain, he's um, even getting up to that area, he's just like, I'm going to go climb this mountain. I'm getting up to this cabin that Moose has that has a bathroom. And him leaving Mike behind, trapped beneath a boulder for who knows how long because people don't die here. That seemed a lot darker than I would have expected for Nate, especially for Mike, who I saw not as like necessarily a rival or a friend, but kind of like a fellow hiker at least. Like I
Uh-huh.
didn't feel any bad blood between Mike and Nate. Although there is one cutscene where Mike talks about a fruit he just ate. So maybe that was like Nate's moment to start plotting revenge.
Maybe. I heard Mike calling for help because you hear him near the train at the end,
Mhm.
but I looked and couldn't find him. So I didn't know it was possible to, like, I never found what happened to him. He was trapped under a boulder.
Yeah, if you can slide under this kind of like if you fall down on the ice while you have some momentum, you can get under this lip into a
Huh.
cave. And Mike is under there and he's like, "Please, Nate, you gotta save me." And then Nate's like, "Oh man, I should go get help." "Oh yeah, get Jim." No, no, and then
Maybe
just like,
that's why, because he said to go get Jim.
yeah, maybe, but like, it felt like I felt there was a lot of character growth with Nate that seemed to be like undone a little bit there. Maybe he is just that much of an asshole, but it didn't feel like it to me.
Huh. So I definitely agreed that there's like a growth to Nate and kind of finding his voice and things like that. Again, learning to walk on his own 2 feet. But I thought with that came a bit of an asshole side to him that like we talked about with the interactions with Jim, that I guess I'm not that surprised that I'm surprised that he like leaves Mike there. I don't know if you can leave and go find Jim, probably not, but I'm not surprised that he's like, if it goes, Mike says, go find Jim, and Nate says no. I'm not so surprised by that, I guess. Because my version in my head of the fully formed Nate is he's kind of a dick.
I could see that. I could see that. Maybe there is I guess there's it just seems to me like there's a line between being a dick and being an
Yes.
asshole and like,
Letting someone die or
just be trapped
be
forever.
trapped for eternity. Yeah. Yeah. There is a line there for sure. And I don't necessarily think that if Nate did cross that line at some point, I don't think that they maybe sold that quite as well. So I think I'm with you there. Just maybe I thought Nate was a bit of more of a mixed bag as his fully formed version than you did.
None.
There's a couple things about Nate's journey, and I think like the catalyst for this, like when you actually start to see Nate take strides, we'll say, is when you get to that temple, is after the temple. But I think like the turning point is him getting to the temple, and this is the place where he's been told he can make a wish, and whatever it is will come true. All the donkey guys want him to ask for cigarettes.
Almost all the donkey guys. One of the donkeys, Jesse, is trying to convince Nate that he should wish to go home
Oh, right.
and not to do just what Ethan wants you to do.
Mhm.
But at this point, yeah, it's like you get the feeling Nate's trying to fit in with his cool donkey crowd. He parties with them on the beach in the
Yeah.
desert. He hangs out with them, and you get the feeling that he's probably going to wish for the cigarettes when he gets to the angel at the top. But
Right.
maybe he wishes to go home.
Right. I wondered. I didn't really feel like Nate would wish to go home because he didn't seem to like maybe he didn't want to be here, but I didn't get the sense that home was this awesome place that Nate missed or something like that. So I thought he was just going to do what they were asking and wish for cigarettes, but he doesn't do that. He gets up to the point where he makes his wish and he says, "I wish I was dead." And it's like this real, another one of those things where like there's been comedy all the way up until this point for a while. And it's like cut all that out. Nate wishes he was dead. That's his wish. And you're like, oh shit. That explains a lot. Nate is, very depressed among many other things, and this is his one wish. And that took me aback. And then the second part of that is I forget which of the donkey guys, maybe comes up and talks to him.
right after the wish, Ethan says, "Oh, Nate, it doesn't work that way."
Right.
And
Yeah.
then there's the kind of dream sequence where you're running around the living room, kitchen
Right.
of an apartment or house.
Yep. Um,
But
yeah.
it's Moose talks to him the day after and brings him ice cream.
Right.
Real ice cream, not just a large ice sculpture.
Yeah. So that's the wish. Nate wishes that he was dead. And that immediately like reframes a lot of stuff. And then I guess once Nate realizes that that's not going to be the way that he gets through this, that's what kind of pushes him. And some conversations with Moose seem to be pretty helpful along the way.
Oh,
To kind
I
of,
guess I saw the Moose conversations as more impactful for the growth of Nate. Like we've talked about how Nate doesn't want to accept help. He
yeah,
accepts it from Moose. Moose has always been able to frame it in a way where it's like Nate's doing him a favor if he accepts the help. Like in the temple, it's pitch black. You get in the door and Jim's there. He's got like 6 or 7 lanterns on him. He's like, "Hey, take a lantern." Nate says, "Fuck off," more or less.
yeah.
And then he goes to the next room and Moose is like, "Oh man, I've got 2 lanterns. Everyone's making fun of me because I have 2 lanterns. Could you be a pal and just take a lantern for me,
Uh-huh.
please?" Which, because Moose can really see like through Nate, I think, and see through his kind of like insecurity facade of like refusal to accept anything.
Right.
So they talk about it, and Moose also mentions something similar of like how he didn't wish to go home because he didn't really have a good life to return to back then. So he built a cabin up in the mountaintop instead.
What I meant by that was more that like it feels like an environment that would like force you to make this sort of progress within yourself in order to make progress in the game. Like you would have to learn something along the way, and Nate's just kind of like delaying that or not letting it in or not self-reflecting or anything like that because he thinks that he can wish to die when he gets up to this thing. He believes that the wish will come true. This is the way I took it. And then once he realized that's not on the table, and then you said the next morning he talks with Moose, they have a nice, Moose is genuinely nice and helpful, and like you said, frames things in a way that Nate can like accept. And he seems to be one of the only characters that like Nate's comfortable just like sitting and having like a real conversation with,
Mm-hmm.
which he's not comfortable with a bunch of other people
Anyone
in the
else?
game. Right. So that's kind of the new push where Nate is starting to actually like maybe internalize things and make progress moving forward.
Okay, I could see that too. I like that framing of it. Kind of like Nate beforehand wasn't making long-term plans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, we've talked about a lot of the second half interactions with Mike, interactions with Jim, and then interactions with Moose. And then you go up. Your goal is to get to the top of the mountain, and you get this point toward the end where after wandering for what it felt like wandering forever in this like tundra at the top of the mountain, and like the camera zooms like way out as you're walking. It's like kind of cool how they frame it up.
It's an epic little moment there, right?
Yeah. And then you see the top of the mountain if that's your goal to get to the top of the mountain, and then you see down in this like canyon the cabin where like Moose told you he's got a cabin. And so you have the choice, I guess. Like it didn't really feel like a choice to me, but I guess it is a choice to continue climbing the mountain. You do get an ending if you climb the mountain, or you can go down and check out Moose's cabin.
I went for the cabin right away.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm close enough to the top of the mountain here.
Do you have the feeling anytime maybe this goes into like that kind of disregard for Nate that you kind of like get a little inherent feeling of when you're playing? Did you ever like you're like, I need to get down there. It's kind of far. I'm just gonna walk off this cliff and let Nate fall.
100%.
Yeah, definitely did this like going down into this place where the cabin is. It was just like, yeah, just fucking throw yourself off the side of this thing and slide down this hill.
Easiest thing in the game to do is fall down.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like the moment for Nate is going to the cabin. He knocks on the door, Moose answers, and he's too nervous to ask. Like, this is the test. Like, Nate has to ask for help. He has to admit that he needs help. He needs to ask for it. He needs to allow somebody to see that he needs help. All of these things that he was avoiding the whole time. And it takes him, I think, 3 times knocking on the door and walking and being like, oh, okay, well, all right, well, see you later. And like
Hey,
giving
that's
up
a
on
nice
it.
bathroom you have in there, isn't it?
Yeah. And like Moose, every time Moose is like kind of just mentions the bathroom and stuff like that. And then, yeah, eventually Nate is like, he finally works up the courage to ask to go inside and use the bathroom. And that's the end basically, is Nate has finally gotten to the point where he feels comfortable in all of these different ways enough where he can just ask for help. And that's a big step for Nate.
Mhm. Especially since Nate is, the most pea-shy person you can imagine.
Yeah.
And asking to use a bathroom, like, this has been not just talking with people, this is, like, his worst nightmare. In fact, it's one of the anxiety dreams he has, is he's like a little kid in a baseball stadium, and he starts peeing and just can't stop.
Oh no. Pea dreams are the worst. That's got to be tough. So yeah, that's kind of the end in that way. There's a fun thing after the credits. There's some other things to talk about with this like ending stuff, but after the credits, they cut. It's like some undetermined point in the future. Nate's laying on the couch in Moose's cabin,
Mhm.
same pose as he was in the basement, and you have it's like the game's main menu that you're in, and it's different. And the one of the options is go for a walk. That's the old one where you'd use to boot your save up, and now it says go for a walk. And did you do this?
Nope. I think I restarted a new game after hitting
Okay,
credits.
it's pretty funny. You press go for a walk, and Nate just kind of says like, he's like with Moose. Moose is cooking, like making breakfast or something, and Nate's like, you know what I was thinking? Should go for a walk. And Moose is like, yeah. And Nate's like, eh. And then he just goes back to sleep on the couch. And you can press go for a walk in the menu more times and you'll get different cutscenes. And eventually, after like 4 or 5 times, Nate will actually get up and go for a walk. And he gets up, goes to leave the cabin, and he gives Moose a kiss on the cheek as he
Mhm.
leaves. And I don't know if it's just a very friendly thing or if Nate was actually gay the whole time. Doesn't really matter. It's just a funny, like, oh, okay, Nate.
Hmm.
That's not the same person we started the game as who would, be comfortable kissing someone on the cheek and leaving.
I definitely read it as, like, this is a relationship sort of thing rather than
Yeah.
just friendship.
The first time it like took me aback. I was probably just so taken aback by it that I was like, huh? Okay. But they do seem very almost like coupley talk, "Oh, I'm thinking about doing this. Yeah. That kind of thing as one of them's cooking,
Hmm.
one of them's laying on the couch, stuff like that. So yeah. Maybe Nate was gay the whole time and finally found someone he can be comfortable with at the end. But I thought it was funny the amount of cutscenes you have to go through pressing that go for a walk button before
Hmm.
Nate will actually get up. Like Nate's not a brand new person at the end of this. So there is that. That was kind of funny.
Maybe it's another taunt from the developer. It's like, look, there's a new main menu and there's a new option. You know
Yeah.
something's going to be different. We're just going to make you watch Nate fail a little more before you can do it.
Right. Yeah. And then you can leave, you can go for a walk. And I think you can walk out of um, that like canyon or whatever. Because I
Mhm.
did. You can walk back up and then you can go anywhere else in the game. Because, like you said, the easiest thing to do in this game is to go down. So you can go anywhere you want. You can't go back in the cabin. Nate's like, they just like didn't program Nate going back into the cabin or knocking
Hmm.
again. And then there is a cutscene if you go to the top of the mountain. Did you do that?
I saw the cutscene, but I didn't do it myself.
Okay, the cutscene's funny. For those who didn't see the cutscene, if you get to the top of the mountain, it's apparently really difficult to do. Nate finally starts to pee in public, which is funny. Like he's a shy bladder. He can't pee anywhere he thinks someone might see him, but he's on top of the mountain, like the most visible place in the place. He starts peeing and Mike appears right behind him in the middle of his stream.
Was that a hallucination, Mike, or was it like actually Mike?
Oh, I don't know, but
Okay, I thought he like looked around and Mike was gone then.
maybe he did. Yeah. But he was doing like the world's longest piss, like the one from Austin Powers, where it's like comically long. So that's a fun ending there.
Maybe he's haunted by the ghost of Mike or the leaving Mike in the ice cave, and now every time he tries to pee off a mountain, there's Mike right there.
That'd be a pretty brutal curse to the ghost only manifests when you're peeing and also you're really pee shy. Oh, also the thing about the bathroom in Moose's cabin is there's no door. So
of course
one
not.
final twist. Yeah.
Well, you talked around about being able to go out of the cabin again and just go to anywhere in the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I mentioned there was one item that was kind of like a lock and key item, and the only time you get that in the game. There's a hat called the X-ray Specs.
Okay.
And it's in the sculpture garden. If you remember, there was that like mile-long trail of posts that you had to walk across, or that you could walk across. If you end up doing that, you can get the X-ray specs at the end that lets you see all this invisible shit that's all over the game. Kind of concentrated in that area, but it's in other places too.
Okay.
Like the tower that Mike tells you there's nothing on top of. There's actually an invisible inverted tower on top of that you can climb up. So things like that. And some of the harder challenges in the game, I think, involve these like invisible things. Because at this point, the devs are like, okay, guys, you're really asking for it at this point. So there's like spinning cubes that you have to keep walking on as they take you from one thing to the other. There's like floating pathways of these invisible cubes, and there's one particular cutscene I really liked in the game where if you follow this long hard path of invisible cubes, you get up on top of this platform, and if you have your X-ray specs on, you can see that there's a gigantic trophy up there. And this is like the first time in the game that Nate actually can touch a trophy. He's excited, he's ecstatic. And then Mike comes along on the ground below, and he's like, oh, hey, how you doing there, Nate? And Nate's super excited about the trophy. He's like, look at this huge trophy. I got it. It's all mine. And Mike does not have the X-ray specs on. He's like, oh, yeah, you might need a little R&R there, buddy, huh? It's like, no, there's a real trophy. It's just invisible and you can't see it. Which I think kind of sums up one of my favorite themes from the game, which was what I talked about before, accomplishments versus trophies and versus achievements, what other people can see versus what you can do yourself. You get to Moose's cabin, you climb up to the top of the mountain peak. That's an accomplishment. That was work. That was a challenge. You succeeded at that. But it's not necessarily a trophy or an achievement that you can show to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be honest, I don't pay attention to Steam achievements beyond the second that they pop up, and I look at it and I'm like, oh, okay, I got an achievement for that. I don't look at the lists. I don't care about the score. I just like the little sound effect that they pop up. They give me a little good boy feeling, and then that's gone.
The game's Steam page, or it does have achievements on Steam. I think 13. Right. I looked them up before the cast, and I think only one of them is hidden at the beginning, and that's for if you get a good enough time on doing a lap around the secret gym.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't even know what that means, but there's very little in this game that you would like do and like brag about, I guess, other than finishing the game or doing the Manbreaker, I guess. And Nate does brag about that. And, you know, he causes a crisis within Jim when he does it. Everything else in the game, especially those optional things that we talked about, that ended up being like pretty memorable for us. Those are all like intrinsically motivated. Like, yeah, I'm going to get a fun cutscene at the end of this, but the real reason I want to do it is just see if I can do it. And that's enough motivation for a lot of this stuff. I don't need a trophy in video games to do anything that I do in games. I'm not motivated by them at all. I mean, I think that a lot of games could do something with this idea. Wanderstop was another one that did an interesting thing with trophies, where trophies would go off at random times, not related to anything that you've done. And they would just have like weird little things. And it's another, like, you know, developer with a reputation, so to speak, just being like, hey man, these are bullshit. Like, they're just popping whenever, like, stop caring about these. But I think Baby Steps is a good example of a game that, like, anything that you're motivated by doing is motivated for like the accomplishment of doing it first and foremost. I don't even know if you get a trophy for like finishing the game or rolling the credits. Like,
Oh, I don't want to over-index on like Steam achievements in particular,
right.
but I think this like goes into kind of Nate's character too. I think he's like you see in the game when his eyes get big whenever there's a trophy nearby. But you see him like he wants these trophies, these kind of like publicly displayable things of like, look what I did.
Right.
And I think if I had to define Nate's character arc, it's learning that accomplishment is good or even better than the trophy side of things are. Like learning to do things for their own sake rather than because someone will recognize you for them.
Right. And it makes sense with that cutscene you mentioned with, or the phone call with his dad kind of talking about, or maybe it was a cutscene I remember, talking about the trophy that his sister has and stuff like that.
The hat dream.
The hat dream, right. And so it's like, you know, Nate equates a trophy with doing something good that people will respect you for. And that's really all that, you know, that's what he sees, because apparently that's what the people around him value and talk about and brag about and stuff like that. I mean, later in the game, there are those parts where Nate like climbs the Manbreaker and it's like, he's proud of what he's done. And Jim sees that he did it, but like, I don't like, he kind of did climb the Manbreaker to stick it to Jim, but like, he is proud of his accomplishment when he gets to the top. So maybe slow growth in that area.
Nate can still be a dick, right?
Yeah. You can't, you can be an intrinsically motivated asshole. Both of those are possible. So yeah, I think you're right. Like, in the way that this game does, if it's true for Nate, it's also kind of true for the player. And like, I think that in those optional challenges, you're motivated by doing the thing and the accomplishment of climbing that weird tree to get that fruit, or the accomplishment of I heard in the interview or saw somewhere, there's someone who's trying to complete the game kicking that soccer ball through the entire game. And like, that's an accomplishment. No one is there are not going to be any points or things for doing that. There might be like, you know, people see it on YouTube or something like that. But that's something where someone's like, I wonder if I can do that. And then just trying to see if you can do it. And that's where a lot of the most memorable moments in this game came from, were those things where it's like, I don't have to do this. I'm not going to get a real tangible reward out of this. Nate's not going to learn how to jump or use his arms.
Or I just use his hand just once.
Just
Come on,
once.
buddy.
Just put your hand up against that cliff face, please. Just brace yourself a little bit. He's not going to do that. So it's all about, do I think that this is fun and worthwhile? And will I feel accomplished when I do it? And I always did. You mentioned it like a little bit, but I think it's funny. That one cutscene when Mike is like, just use your grappling hook. And he does the video game ass, the Uncharted grappling hook. And he swings across and Nate's like, oh yeah, sure. Just use my grappling hook. And then Mike's gone because he grappled his way across the thing. Very funny.
Hmm.
One more thing about Nate's thing that I just wanted to get your take on. So as you progress through the game, it will show you Nate's basement as you on the main menu every time you boot the game up. And depending on your progress, the basement will have changed a certain amount. And it becomes clear what's happening as you're playing through the game is Nate's former
Enclave.
basement lounge enclave, is being remodeled, finished, touched up, and repurposed. I think at the end it's like a gym space.
Mm-hmm.
So Nate's not there, like obviously because there's the phone calls and stuff, but he's not there anymore in that basement. And his parents are repurposing that space. They're cleaning it up. They're kind of moving on with the use of that space. And I wondered if there was something to read into that, to read into they're not saving that place for him. What do we make of that? Like, I don't know. I'll kick it to you first before I throw out some of my ideas. Did you have a thought about that?
Oh, for most of the game, I thought Nate was dead.
Okay.
But with the phone calls, either there's some weird magic phone going on, or maybe his parents just think he moved out or something like that.
Yeah. I thought of this today or yesterday or something like that, thinking about this progression of the basement, that it's possible that Nate's dead, but I think maybe Nate got kicked out of the house. And the world that he sees, the game world, is this weird, fantastical world. And maybe Nate sees the real world as this very strange and alien place. And the walking up the mountain, all of that stuff is a metaphor for him learning to live on his own. And his parents are repurposing that space because he's no longer there physically. Those phone calls, they're very grounded and realistic. So they might just be real phone calls. And Nate's just like in this weird perception of the world around him. Now, I will say, I did not see the cutscene that said that Nate had a job. So I didn't know that he like ever left the house before the events of the game.
Yeah. Well, he at least had a dream about having a job. It wasn't a
Yeah,
very
that's
good
fair.
one, though. So
It
his
may not be real. It may just be like, oh, fuck. If his parents kicked him out, he's like, oh, fuck, I have to get a job. What does that even mean? What can I do? What's that going to be like? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a solid read on it. Like they had that family meeting, and the meeting was like, Nate, you got to go, and
Yeah.
now he's plunged into this cold lake of reality in this
Yeah.
fantasy way instead.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know what to make of the fact that everyone has their dick out in the game, but yeah, maybe it's repressed something, but
Oh, I think the Pinocchio Pleasure Island parallels are very strong with that.
mm,
Like you're in this magical land. There's a bunch of donkeys around partying and having a good time, drinking,
mm-hmm.
gambling, all that stuff.
Okay.
Tempting Nate along with the same things. He rejects them eventually. That's again Act Two. Ethan offers up, Nate, do you want to come to a party later tonight? And Nate's like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna drink that milk stuff again ever.
Yeah.
So like it did seem like there was character growth there, but yeah, it's like that's my read on why donkeys in particular. The dicks, I think, were just for fun.
Yeah, it could be. That's a good pull. I had forgotten. I think that donkey is the actual use that they use in the actual word they use in the Pinocchio book for like those kind of like people who don't contribute to society, that they're trying to prevent Pinocchio from being. I might be misremembering that, but I have read Pinocchio within the last calendar year. I should remember this. So yeah, just a thought that I had about the progression of the basement and what actually did happen, because it's a weird story. Maybe Nate was literally transported to this weird world where no one can die, but maybe it's a representation for something else. And with Nate's story, I think it makes sense for the outside world to be this weird, unfamiliar place with people who like you have trouble interacting with if Nate's, spent all his time in that basement.
No, I could see that. It's kind of a as a metaphor, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to make sure I mention and just kind of have a laugh about before leaving is, did you watch the unskippable 28-minute cutscene?
Oh, it was brilliant. Loved it.
Yeah. Watched all 28 minutes of it and I laughed along like I was watching a TV show. So what happens is if you have skipped all the cutscenes in the game up to the point where Nate goes to Moose's cabin, it will play a 28-minute long unskippable cutscene where Nate and Moose talk about, like, they start to have that conversation about, the cabin and stuff. And then one of them is like, oh, wait, they're trying to skip this one. They're trying to skip this too. Yeah, they've been skipping them all. And then they're like, I feel like such an idiot doing this. They're just going to skip it. And they get into this. It starts as like a meta conversation about the players skipping the cutscene. And then it just turns into Foddy and Cuzillo just shooting the shit for 25 more minutes. And apparently it was longer because they mentioned, like, we've been doing this for 45 minutes in the recording, and like maybe some stuff was cut out or dead air was cut out, and stuff like that. But it's this really funny joke at people who skip cutscenes. Even though one of them in the cutscene talks about how he always skips cutscenes in games. And it's just a really fun conversation. I loved it.
Yeah, there was I think you mentioned like the improv nature of a lot of these cutscenes that they had. They just had such a good rapport, good chemistry with each other, and you really only get it in like 30-second bites or 1-minute bites. And this seemed like the first time that they really just like let loose on everything. They talk about everything from video games to Game of Thrones to phrases that are hard to translate from English to other languages.
Yeah, they keep returning to like the meta nature of this cutscene. There's a point where they're like, they tell the cameraman that they're going to take a nap so he doesn't need to hold the camera. So then the camera turns and points straight up at the sky.
And now they don't have to animate anything for when they talk.
Exactly. But then later on, one of them is like, oh, they're going to have to localize this cutscene, aren't they? And they both laugh about it. And they're like, no, they won't bother with this. And the other one's like, yeah, they're going to do it. Like, it's part of their job to localize it. And then they start trying to make up untranslatable things to mess with the localizers, like in a kind of fun way. And it just goes on and on and on and on. And it's really funny. And it's just like, you can tell they're friends, and like, they just have the same conversation that they've been having, when they go eat lunch together or something, plus the meta jokes about what's going on in the cutscene and the players. And they're like, man, I bet they wish they could skip it. Should we let them skip it? And they like get to the end and they're like, all right, yeah, we can end this.
We got to show the credits now.
It lasts for like 2 more minutes after the point where they say they're going to stop. Like, they don't actually want to stop. It's just really good. Hats off. It's very funny. And I don't know how I would feel about it if I was a person who skips every cutscene in a video game and then I got hit with this, but I couldn't imagine skipping every cutscene in a game. So I think this is funny.
It's a great scene. And you do still get the credits afterwards, which has the fantastic map that you've been missing the entire time.
It's very good. It's like the hero's path thing in Breath of the Wild. It shows your path through the game map, all the times you fell. So like, you'll play baby steps and you'll remember those big falls that you took.
The hard parts to get through, like the cactus bridge or anywhere else.
Right. The cactus bridge. I tried that probably 20 times before I was like, you know what? I'm going the other way. And I went the other way, made progress the other direction. But yeah, you can see your little path on the map thing. Struggle, fall back, go back up, fall down, go back up. Your huge falls, you'll see those. You'll see all the times you like got sidetracked, and you just follow your path up. And like, it's really fun. You see the map, you see the obstacles have names, they're labeled. And so you remember them, and you'll see the little cursor go up to the place and you're like, I remember this place was really hard. And then you'll see your little thing like go back and forth as you fall and go back up a whole bunch of times. I love this.
It was a great thing. I was kind of like narrating where each of these things were. I played this game a lot with my wife watching, and she loved watching the game as well.
Yeah, my wife too. Yeah.
And she was impressed that I could remember like all these bits on the map. Like, oh yeah, that's the bridge. That's the bridge with a grizzly bear on it. Things like that.
Oh yeah. Remember that.
This was a really good kind of like spectator game just because of the ridiculousness of it. Now, my wife even had a philosophy, or kind of like she would be able to guess what the game developers were trying to get me to do before I would, because she's like in the sculpture garden where there's that big rubber ball that you're supposed to walk over the top of in order to get to the other platform, and I don't even remember what's there, maybe a cutscene or something, but it's like a 12-foot tall rubber ball, and you have to walk on it from one dock to another while it's rolling around. And she guessed immediately that I'd have to do that when we first saw it, because she's like, I just thought of the worst possible thing that you'd have to do with it, and there it is.
Yeah. My wife enjoyed watching it. She doesn't normally watch me play games, but this one, it has great spectator potential because of all the falls, because of just how goofy it is. Even when you're walking normally, Nate looks really goofy walking. And, just how huge his ass is and how much of a weirdo he is in the cutscenes and all that stuff. Good spectator game, and a good game for streaming. I streamed several hours of this, and people seem to enjoy watching it. So hopefully it inspired people to take up the game for themselves a little bit. All right. Well, I think that is baby steps covered for our purposes. So, Josh, thank you for doing the show with me. Thank you for agreeing to talk about this really what ended up being a really, really interesting game. A lot going on. I really appreciate the conversation.
Oh, it was a great time. I always enjoy talking about games, and especially about great ones like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everyone still with us at the end of the show, one more call for you to check down in the show notes, check for Pixelated Playgrounds podcast, and check for Josh's games over on the itch page. If you want all the projects, especially, I'll put links down in the show notes as always for those. You can easily find those and find something, creative work you'll have a good time with. I'm sure you will. So I feel like myself at the end of a long baby steps session where my brain is kind of frazzled and I can't really think straight. But for anyone who's still with us at the end of the episode, you are my hero per usual. And look at that, we're back on track. Tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
So Many Games is an independent video game website from a group of passionate people. With a team of over 10 writers doing their bit for game discoverability, you'll surely find a game that will pique your interest. Our reviews delve into the main elements of the game and how they made us feel. With unbased but fair critique and AI-free writing, we hope to offer you a safe place to find out if a game is worthy of your time. But we also write articles from Steam Next Fest catch-ups to topics of interest from the gaming world. And we also publish written interviews from developers to voice actors on our bid to shine some light on the people behind our favourite games. But that's not all, as we also offer a monthly podcast interviewing developers, artists, composers, voice actors, and anyone else we can think of to come and talk about their experiences of making their latest or not so latest projects in real time. With a fortnightly newsletter to go on top of our offerings, there really is something for everybody. So what are you waiting for? Get on over to somanygames.co.uk and see for yourself all the amazing content that we have waiting for you.
Welcome to No Small Games, the indie gaming recap and review podcast. I'm Kate, also known as Cater Blossom.
And I'm Emily. You might also know me online as The Specific Egg.
And we met streaming and playing video games on Twitch.
At No Small Games, we combine our favorite genres to experience everything the indie game world has to offer and share it with all of you. We believe there are no small games, only small game studios.
Each episode, we'll choose one indie game that we each played separately and discuss our playthrough experience together.
The good, the bad, and our most memorable moments. We'll follow our recap with a review and announcement of which indie game will be featured on our next episode.
We invite you to play each game along with us and would love to hear from you about your playthrough experience.
Hey, Kate.
Hey, Emily.
I hope that No Small Games brings everyone some big fun.